Welcome to my presentation on validity and reliability. I'm covering sections 14.1 to 14.5 and my name's Olivia Vaughn. I'll be focusing solely on validity in research. We will be looking at validity in qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method research. We will also be talking about different types of validity. I found this graphic helpful in going through the chapter and talking about both what reliability and validity mean and what they're trying to accomplish. Start out by talking about the importance of validity and that if research is invalid, it is worthless. This could be open to interpretation of what validity in terms of research means. Is it how we interpret data and what claims seem to be true? But these three authors have stated that a piece of research is valid if the warrants that underpin it are defensible and thereby if the conclusions drawn and explanations can stand their ground. Very similar to warrants. Even through abstract and theoretical constructs, the understanding of validity is important. This made me connect to the relevance of research. Is what you're trying to prove already a common truth among society? It made me personally draw on current discussions about climate change and whether arguments against it could be considered valid points in 10 years. Similar to historical beliefs about the Earth being flat, this would be an invalid study to conduct as research has already proven this to be untrue. Because validity is defined in such different terms depending on the type of research conducted, it is important to engage the issues such as knowledge and an understanding of being, but limit discussions of validity. There are four main types of validity. You have construct validity, statistical conclusion validity, internal validity, and external validity, and I found this graphic was a little bit helpful in understanding that. Cohen, Mannion, and Morrison note that there are too many factors for research to be 100% valid and perfect. Researchers are rather encouraged to be as precise as possible. To me, I connected this idea to the idea of personal bias. As a researcher, you want to keep things as neutral as possible by ensuring that in some way bias isn't involved. But in any study, there is interest in spending effort and time, and even as a researcher, being personally involved in finding some insight and truth about your topic. In most cases, validity in quantitative research involves following assumptions and underpinnings of research. Validity in quantitative research attempts to adhere to features of controllability, replicability, consistency, predictability, randomization of samples, neutrality, objectivity, observability, and original statements about behavior. Because validity relies on researchers being faithful to underpinnings and assumptions, Shadish again notes that statistical conclusion validity may be therefore threatened in several different ways. The example I chose of ways that data could be skewed was that there could be a wide variability in the outcome measures. And I think this is important because of how large range data could affect results and the precise nature of questions trying to be asked. Examples of validity principles in qualitative research are found on page 247. In later discussions, Cohen, Mannion, and Morrison discuss differing opinions on the definitions of validity through qualitative research. Researchers discuss the power of the word validity and suggest words like understanding, authenticity, and fidelity to be synonyms of validity, though none agree on the precise language. One thing researchers do agree on is the common ground between qualitative and quantitative validity, and that the two are not mutually exclusive. On page 249, of Research Methods in Education, Cohen, Mannion, and Morrison compare what validity is based on the two methods in the graphic, which gives a good overview of practical applications of validity in both qualitative and quantitative research. As mixed methods uses both qualitative and quantitative research methods, the research therefore has to conform to collective procedures which are not alike. Validity has its own terminology and meaning and types of legitimation. Cohen, Mannion, and Morrison discuss problems with mixed methods research and what it must overcome. So they talk about the three problems that mixed method must overcome. So we have representation, using largely or only words and pictures to catch the dynamics of a lived experience and unfolding emergent situations. Legitimation, ensuring that the results are dependable, credible, transferable, plausible, confirmable, and trustworthy. And integration, using and combining qualitative and quantitative methods, each with their own, sometimes antagonistic canons of validity. So that can be found on page 250 as well. Researchers argue about specifics of legitimation in mixed method research and whether it should be a broader embrace of validity. Next, we will examine the different types of validity. I have paraphrased each to signify my understanding of what each mean. So we start with internal validity, which is the explanation of a particular event, issue, or set of data, which a piece of research provides can actually be sustained. So, was the research done correctly, and were all attempts to minimize influences taken? When we look at external validity, this refers to the degree to which the research can be generalized to transfer findings. Can these findings be understood in different ways and in different contexts when referring to this topic? Next, we look at construct validity. How much a test measures what it is claiming to be measuring, and does how I am measuring this construct accurately relate to methodological factors? Next, we look at content validity, how much a measure represents all parts of a study. As Cohen, Mannion, and Morrison use as an example, does the research sample address the breadth and depth needed to accurately represent all parts of a study? We look at convergent and discriminant validity, which are both parts of construct validity, and demonstrated when factors should be related or not related to each other. So in this way, we have convergent, which is when two things should be related to each other and are, and discriminant, which requires two or more unrelated items or attributes to be shown to be unrelated and are different from each other. Next, we look at criterion-related validity and how much the measurement being used relates to the outcome. This can be split into concurrent validity, which implies that data gathered from using one instrument can correlate highly to data gathered from using another instrument. And then we looked at, in criterion-related validity, predictive validity, which can predict one score from using a similar set of data. We also have catalytic validity, which Cohen, Mannion, and Morrison define as research leads to action in terms of social change or agenda. So did the agenda proposed by the study push further change, for example, in social theorems or feminist theory? We talk about consequential validity. So what are the consequences of research and how is the research used? Did the consequence of the research keep with the intentions of the research in the first place? We have cross-cultural validity, which seeks to understand the extent to which there are differences and similarities between cultural norms and members. Was the data affected by these cultural differences? We look at cultural validity, which is the assessment of the appreciation of the cultural values of those being researched. So are researchers ensuring that the research is appropriate to the culture that is being researched? And then we have ecological validity, how policies and the study affect real life. In that we are understanding how the findings and information are transferable to real life. So what are my conclusions from this chapter? Well, I've learned that validity is paramount in research, in that if it is not true, applicable, or valid, there is no point in conducting the data. By paying attention to the types of validity relevant to research, researchers can avoid having their work being considered invalid. Validity is concerned with the accuracy of information. In all types of research methodology and through different types of validity, we can see that it searches for accurate understanding. Just give you a preview here of my references. So I use the course textbook and the secondary references from the readings. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you have a great night.